Hi everyone. Welcome to Turkish series stars. All the real talk is in today's video, so stay with me to the end. If you're enjoying the way we break down the stories behind the headlines, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that join button to support the channel. Now, let's get into the story that has shaken Turkish entertainment like an earthquake. The industry is buzzing, the comment sections are on fire, and fans are split down the middle. At the center of the whirlwind stand two names whose every glance, every silence, and every rumor becomes a national conversation: Elçin Sangu and Barış Arduç. This time, the spark was not a premiere or a scandalous role, it was a decision made on a day meant for mourning. Elçin chose not to attend the funeral of Barış's grandmother. What could have been a private farewell turned into a public reckoning, a chorus of opinions that refused to be quiet. The loss occurred while the family was still processing the news. Barış's grandmother passed away at 92 after a life that stretched between Turkey and Italy. She had lived her last years in Italy, but the family brought her back to Istanbul for a final farewell steeped in tradition. People close to both of them say she had a special warmth, the kind that made everyone in a room feel seen and welcome. During the years when Elçin and Barış were together, she and the grandmother built something tender. Summers by the sea, quiet breakfasts, video calls full of laughter and advice that only grandmothers can give. So when the day came and the cameras gathered in front of the old mosque in the historic heart of Istanbul, its courtyards heavy with the hush of prayer and rain threatening to fall, the absence felt louder than any whisper. The ceremony drew politicians, producers, directors, longtime friends. Grief was a cloak around everyone, and the family carried it with the solemnity the day demanded. The cameras caught Barış leaning into his sorrow as the coffin was carried, shoulders shaking despite his effort to stay composed. His mother, Gülden Osman, held on to her husband's arm like it was the last piece of ground not swaying beneath her. It was the kind of sadness that makes even strangers lower their eyes. For a while, the silence held. And then someone near the outer steps murmured the question everyone else was quietly asking: where is Elçin? That question left the mosque with the mourners and hit social media like a stormfront. Theories spun, each more certain than the last. Some called it icy, a harsh line drawn on a day that should dissolve all grudges. Others argued it was self-preservation, a border set after a breakup that had already been dissected too publicly. A few hours later, Elçin broke her stillness without a single word. On her official account appeared a stark image, a black background, a single red carnation resting on the darkness. No caption, no explanation. That wordless post said everything and nothing, at once a tribute and a shield. Some fans praised the restraint and the dignity, insisting that grief does not demand a stage. Others felt the opposite, that silence can be a wound when a family is saying goodbye. Forums flared. Stories clashed. Even within their fan communities, people disagreed with passion. Entertainment shows seized the moment and pushed it into primetime. Journalists, commentators, and guests who claimed to know both actors offered contradictory readings. One panel argued that a breakup doesn't erase shared history. Another defended the right to avoid a room full of pointed lenses and drawn conclusions. In cafes and taxis, at offices and kitchens, people argued as if they were discussing someone they knew personally. A question that began with two public figures turned into a mirror that reflected everyone's ideas about love, endings, and the boundaries we draw after the last goodbye. From those closest to Elçin came a careful, protective explanation. She was, they said, trying to preserve what calm she has managed to build after a separation that never really left the headlines. The divorce had wrung both of them dry. Arriving at the mosque would have created a spectacle she did not want, a spiral of speculation on a day that should have belonged only to farewell. It wasn't indifference, they insisted, it was survival, a choice made to not make the grief about her. On the other side, emotions were raw. People present at the funeral said Barış, through tears and exhaustion, confided to a friend that on a day like this, even a small message would have mattered, that simple humanity sometimes speaks loudest in a few gentle words. Whether said once in private or more than once as the day wore on, that sentiment leaked, and when it reached the press, sympathy gathered around him like a blanket. He had carried the weight of the goodbye in front of everyone. He had not expected anything except perhaps a simple sign. Later, outside the mosque, his mother, Goldam Osman, spoke in the hushed tone of a woman who had cried for hours. On days as hard as this, she said, people must set pride aside. They had hoped for a gesture, a nod toward the history that had been shared. Not coming, she whispered, leaves marks that might take years to fade. She didn't name anyone, but she didn't have to. The web erupted. Within minutes, posts flooded timelines. Some defended Elçin's choice as the only sane option after months of speculation. Others argued that love for a family member endures, even past a breakup. The debates took on a rhythm. She is no longer part of that family. She had no obligation. And then the reply, humanity doesn't vanish just because a marriage ends. Another voice, she was protecting the day from becoming a circus. Another answer, if she truly felt close to the grandmother, she would have stood there in the back, silent, present. Every line felt like a match to dry tinder. The conversation leapt borders as easily as a headline. Italian papers picked it up with urgency, recalling the summers when the actress visited the grandmother in coastal towns and the quiet bond they were said to share. The European coverage framed the absence like a plot twist from the very dramas that made them famous, unexpected, resonant, cinematic. And then, as if a rumor had been waiting for the perfect opening to reappear, one more name drifted back into the discourse, Sarah Bluma. The Italian model whose name had once appeared in gossip columns alongside speculation about the break between Elçin and Barış did not attend the funeral. But several sites couldn't resist connecting dots that may or may not exist, suggesting that Elçin's absence could ease the family's path toward accepting a reconciliation with Sarah in the future. One columnist wrote that by staying away, Elçin had cleared the stage. Whether coincidence or calculated narrative, the idea spread with the persistence of a stain. People close to Elçin bristled at that suggestion. Those in her circle insist that the decision, far from cold, was made with tears. She had loved the grandmother, they said. She had sent flowers quietly. She had lit a candle for her in the privacy of her home. But walking into that mosque would have created 1,000 stories before the day was half over. She didn't want to stand between a family and their grief or become a headline in a moment meant for memory. Her silence, they say, was love expressed in restraint. The public remains split, and maybe that was inevitable. What does a public figure owe to society's concept of duty when the price is their own peace? Where is the line between empathy and self-preservation? These questions drifted through living rooms and comment sections alike, and nobody agreed on the answers. Some people saw strength in staying away. Others saw a door slammed when a hand should have been extended. And then there is Barış, a man known for his quiet dignity, trying to hold the family together while cameras recorded every tremor in his voice. He is used to the flash of lights, but not on a day like this. In contrast, there is Elçin, who has always walked her own path, artistic and intense, sometimes mysterious in the way she chooses to speak only when she feels ready. Together, even as a former couple, they create a voltage in the public imagination that few pairs can match. That tension, that shared history, makes every move look like a message. Was the red carnation a goodbye? A peace offering? A way of saying, I am here, but not there? Or was it simply what it appeared to be, an image placed between herself and the noise? On television, a panelist leaned forward and asked whether the pain of losing someone should be bigger than the painful echoes of a divorce. On the radio, a caller spoke about how breakups change the shape of families forever. In cafes, strangers spoke as if they had been at the mosque themselves. The story became a vessel for everyone's beliefs about love, endings, and how to carry yourself when the world insists on watching. And of course, somewhere beneath all the noise, there is the life of a 92-year-old woman who moved between languages and countries, who loved and was loved, who cooked and listened and laughed. Those who were close to her say she would have wanted calm, not a controversy, patience, not a point scored, unity, not a scoreboard of who showed up and who did not. Maybe that's the grace we should borrow from her. But the world keeps spinning, and in our corner of it, the spotlight burns bright. Here at Turkish Series Stars, we're tracking every development, every statement, every thoughtful silence. Stories like this travel far beyond the Bosphorus, and they have already crossed into Italy and into the hearts of Spanish-speaking fans who adore Turkish series and the legends who star in them. If you haven't yet, subscribe, turn on notifications, and consider joining our community. Your support helps us keep offering the deeper angles, the human layers, and the quiet truths that sit beneath the surface of public drama. Tell us which stars you want covered next. Your curiosity sets our agenda. As the lights fade on this chapter for tonight, the echo of a decision still hangs in the air. It's the echo of a day when one person stood in the storm and another chose the shelter of a room alone. It's the echo of a flower against a black field, a symbol that can mean remembrance or defiance depending on the eyes that see it. Perhaps time, not today's shout, will reveal where respect ends and retaliation begins, or whether those words ever belonged in the same sentence at all. Until then, the question lingers over the city like mist: was her choice an act of grace, or a door closing with finality? Did he deserve the comfort of a message, or was silence the truest way to keep the day from becoming theater? For now, all we know is that a family said goodbye, a nation argued, and two names found themselves once again at the center of a debate with no easy answers. And you, what do you feel, deep down? Was Elçin's quiet image enough, or should she have been there, even in the last row, unseen but present? Do you think Barış's pain is being used by others to spin a narrative, or is the pain itself the only real thing that matters? Leave your thoughts below. Your voice is part of this conversation, and we read everything because that's what makes this space different. We're not just here for headlines, we're here for the heartbeat behind them. Thank you for watching and for spending your time with us here at Turkish Series Stars. We'll keep following this story, carefully and respectfully, and we'll be back with more. Take care of yourselves, and each other. Until the next video. Goodbye for now.